Hi everyone. In this video we'll be discussing about SharePoint Syntex service and how we can utilize its AI features to extract data from contract documents. So for the agenda, just to give you a brief history, we do provide consulting services to various organizations. Sometimes it is just plain consulting services, or we might do something called staff augmentation service, where we'll provide a consultant for a specific period of time. So in those scenarios, our first step is to sign master service agreement. And once the consultant is assigned, we'll assign a work order for that specific consultant for a specific period of time. The reason why we do service order is because for a specific client, you could have multiple consultants assigned to that particular client. So we'll sign a master service agreement, and for each consultant we'll have a separate work order. So that's our problem, where in the past what we used to do is once the document is signed by both parties, we used to upload it to a SharePoint document library and then do a manual entry like this document or this service agreement is for client XYZ or client ABC. And then after the work order is signed, okay, this work order is for client ABC and what the hourly rate is and so forth. So that used to be a problem where someone had to do all this manual entry. So what we decided to do is automate it with SharePoint Syntex. Now our argument could be made that we can use Dynamics 365 to do all of these document processing and all that stuff, but that's not the point of this video. We would like to demo, if you upload a document in SharePoint library, how SharePoint Syntex can be used to basically classify those documents and extract certain content out of those documents. And finally, we'll have a demo of how SharePoint Syntex works. Just a brief history about me. My name is Amit Fadnis, and I work for a company called Wingate Solutions. That's our website address. On Twitter, you can find me at AA Fadnis, my last name, or on LinkedIn. You can find me on www.linkedin.com/AAFadnis. So let's define the problem first, why we need to classify these documents and extract contents. So the requirement is we are going to upload service provider agreements and then work order documents. And then we would like to classify whether the uploaded document is a service provider agreement or a work order. Then we are going to extract the client name and address from the service provider agreement. And from the work order, we are going to extract the client name and the hourly rate. You could as well extract some other information, but that's what we'll be demoing today. Solution is SharePoint Syntex. And what is SharePoint Syntex? It's a Microsoft 365 service. It uses advanced AI and machine learning to amplify human experiences. As I said, we are doing a lot of stuff manually, but now with SharePoint Syntex, you can use the AI feature to extract the content from the document and display it to the end users. And then, of course, to automate the content processing and transform the content into knowledge, like manage data and all that stuff. Okay. The licensing side, it is $5 per user per month with an annual commitment. And this is available to the customers who are licensed for all of these products, 365, F1, F3, E3, and so forth. So what is required in order to classify those documents or the content and all that stuff? You need to have 5 sample positive files. And when I say positive files, it's basically the actual contract documents. So we upload those contract documents and the AI can do the learning process based on those 5 contract documents. And I'll demo those positive files, and 1 negative file which has nothing to do with the contract. And the third important thing is planning. As before you start any project, you need to plan on, why am I doing this? What's the final objective of this particular project? Then you need to think about what all content do I need to extract from these documents for further processing or report generation or whatever your particular requirements are. So the important thing is planning. So I'll demo you what needs to be, how SharePoint Syntex can be used. But when you do implement it on your side, you need to think about what's the final goal and how are you going to achieve it. So let's jump to the demo. So let's discuss on how do you set up your syntax to work with your SharePoint libraries for content processing. So if you haven't already purchased SharePoint Syntex, the best way is to go to Purchase Services, type in SharePoint Syntex, you'll see it, and you click on Details and then add that as one of your services for your SharePoint site. Once it's done, what you do is you go to Setup and then you scroll down to, you'll see a topic called Files and Content, and you'll see Automate Content Understanding. So you click on that and then you click on Manage, where you can do form processing or document understanding. For form processing, you can like specify whether you want all the SharePoint libraries in all SharePoint sites or libraries in selected SharePoint sites or no SharePoint libraries. And for document understanding, you need to specify a content center where you'll build your models. So the form processing is for form processing model in particular document library. Here is where you'll train all your in order to understand your documents, you'll have a content center, and it's nothing but a SharePoint site. So if you click on content center, this is what I have called it, but you might call it something else while you're creating your own content center. So this is how your content center will look like. You have the libraries, pages, models, training files, and so forth. So the very first step is going to be to upload some training files. As I had mentioned in my presentation, you need to have 5 positive files and 1 negative file. So let's just go ahead and upload some training files over here. So click on Upload Files. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this service agreement 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then also the work orders over here, all these 5 work orders, and then click on Open. Okay. So now it's uploading all these documents. So now all your training files are uploaded in this particular library. Now, if you go back to Content Center, this is like the landing page, and you can always do this to how to create a model. So it will say that once a model is created, you need to, the first step is add files. Then you have to classify the content type, extract words and phrases or numbers, apply model to libraries, and so forth. So we are going to go through all of this stuff. If you look in the models I was playing around with, where I created this contracts classifier and work order, but we are going to go to models, and the first step we are going to do is click on create a model, and I'm going to call this a service provider model, and I click on create, And when we looked at the tool, you have already seen that, okay, it shows you add example files and so forth. So what we are going to do is we are going to click on add files. If we had not already uploaded those files in the training files library, it does allow us to upload the files from here as well. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one negative document, service agreement 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as my sample files, and I click on add. Now once this is done, I need to train my classifier. So I click on train classifier, and what I'm going to do is it asks me, is this an example of a service provider? If you see over here, it's something related to project scope, project background, and so forth. So I'm going to say, no, this is not a positive file. Then, of course, we see this general service agreement. Yep, this is the one which I want. And service agreement 2, yes, this is also the right one. This is the right one. This is the right one. And finally, this is the right one. So now what I've done is I have uploaded, or basically I've specified which is a negative file and which are the positive files. So if you see at the top, label at least 5 examples and 1 negative example. Then the next step is we need to train it. But before we do that, we need to provide explanation. So I'm just going to go to from a template and specify, say, let's see over here, maybe something like first word of sentence, and I'm just going to click add, and I'm just going to go ahead and click on save, and let's see what the train model does. And it goes through the process. If you see over here, it does show match. This one, since I didn't find much of a use, it did work. I could have specified like, okay, the first sentence should be general service agreement, but I just generalized it with whatever the character is going to be. And I'm going to exit the training. Now it shows you the accuracy as 100% over here. Now the next step is I'm going to train the extractor. So once I've done this particular part, now I need to train the extractor, and I'm going to call this for, say, client name. Okay, if I put the client name over here, it is going to create a new name called client name. Okay, if you want to use an existing column, I believe I already have a client name over here. So I'm going to select an existing column of client name, and I'm going to click on create. Again, it is going to say, okay, let's go through your sample documents and let's see which document or where is your client name located exactly. I'm going to say no label on this one because this is a negative document. When I go to this one, I'm going to highlight my client name over here. So I'm going to say John Doe client 1. On the next one, I'm going to specify John Doe client 2. Third one, John Doe client 3. Fourth one, John Doe client 4. And the fifth one as John Doe client 5. And once I'm done with this, I'm going to go to the train model. Okay, now here is what I want to make sure that this particular client name falls between and the off. So whatever falls between this particular wording and off needs to be the client name. So I'm going to create explanation. So I'm going to select after label, and I'm going to say add, and I'm going to remove this 111 because that's the part of the address. Okay, so I'm going to say off, and I'm going to click on save, and then I'm going to add one more explanation for before label, and you can see over here it uses all of these. Like by default it will show you between, parenthesis dot whatever it has. Okay, and I'm going to click on save, and then I'm going to click on train model. So now if you see over here, it has matched it to John Doe client 1. If you go to John Doe client 2, you'll see that it's marked in green, which is predicted. Okay, and then I'm going to click on exit training, and now we have created an extractor for client name. Same thing I'm going to do for client address. Let me select, I believe I have the client address as well. So I'm going to select client address and click on create. Okay, again, this one is a negative document, so no. Service address, service agreement 1, this is my actual address. Same thing over here. Same thing over here. Over here. Okay, so we have got all of these marked what all we need. Now if you see over here, now the address is going to be after off and before the word the customer. Okay, so now we're going to go back to train and click on train model. Sorry, I need to enter the explanation, so I'm going to say after label, which right now it just says the. So let's click on add, and I'm going to specify the customer to be more specific. Click on save, and then I'm going to also add this before label, and you see it just took 1 off, 2 off, but I'm just going to remove those because those are part of the client name, so I'm going to remove those and just have off over there. And I click on save, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on train model, and in a few seconds it should train everything and it will show you match all over here. If it fails, it's going to show mismatch, and you need to look at it. Why did it mismatch at that point? Okay. Again, I'm going to exit training. So now we have trained the entity extractors. Now we need to apply this model to a particular document library. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to go to my SharePoint site, okay, and I'm going to go to site contents, and right now I don't have anything, so click on document library, and I'm going to say service agreements, okay, and I'm going to click on create. So what we are going to do is any documents, this model is going to be applied to this particular service agreement. Okay, so the next step is what we are going to do is we're going to click on apply model, and it's under contracts management and the document library service agreements. So I click on that and I click on add, and now if you see over here, this has been added over here. Click on sync all, so it processes all of this stuff just to make sure that the document library has all the metadata and all that stuff. So if you go over here, you have this service provider view, which is created by our content center. So if I click on this, it will show you the client name, client address, what the confidence score is, and so forth. So let's go ahead and upload a document here real quick. So I click on files, and I'm just going to use the service agreement 1. Click on open, and that document gets uploaded. If you see over here, it's saying that notify your team, and so forth. But what we are going to do is we are going to wait. Sometimes it does take 5 minutes, and if you see over here, it's saying we are analyzing your file. One or more of the columns will be updated with discovered values. So we'll just pause the video for a few minutes before it shows up. Actually, while we are waiting for this document to be processed, how about we go back and create another model? So let's go over here, and this time what we are going to do is we are going to create a model, and I'm just going to call it work orders. Since we already have a work order, I'm just going to call it work orders and click on create. So this is the new model which we are creating, and what we are going to do is, of course, we are going to have that negative document, and then go ahead and get all these sample files over here. Click on add, and now all the work orders are added over here. So let's go to train this model. So this is a negative document, so this is not an example of the work order. So I click on no. Now it's trying to pull up this work order 2. Let's give it a few seconds. Again, if you remember, our work order was similar to this thing. So when you look at the content center, it has brought up all of this stuff. So I'm going to say, is this file an example of work orders? I'm going to say yes, 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 finally yes. Okay. And then let's go to train, click on new, from a template, and what I'm going to do is just do the same thing what we did earlier. First word of sentence, click add, click save, train model. It has found all the matches, so click on exit training. And over here we are going to extract the client name as well as the hourly rate. So I'm going to say create extractor, and I believe I already have the hourly rate over here. This is the one which is of the column type number, so I click on create, and this one does not have the label work order 2. I'm going to specify 100. It's 87, 120, 105, 110, and we are going to click on train, click on new from a template. And over here, I'm thinking of, let's use the currency, click on add, and this is going to be dollars, so I'm just going to delete all of this stuff. And click on save, and let's see if this gets trained now. And if you see over here, it has matched everything. It pulled up 100, the next one was 87, 120, 105, and 110. Okay, so we have trained our model. So let's exit this training, and we have got the hourly rate. Let's get the client name as well. So I'm going to again use the existing column for client name and click on create. This one does not have anything. Work order, we have this thing, work order 1. The same thing what we did earlier. We are going to just mark everything we need. And once that is done, we go to train, and over here, like before, we are going to go with the after label, which is service provided, which is this thing. So I'm going to click on save, and then a before label, which is name or client name, and I click add. And let's save it and then do a train model. And let's see if it matches over here. And of course it found the actual names. You can go ahead and verify it. Client 1, client 3, and so forth. So now we have created this model as well. Let's see what this document is up to right now. So if you see over here, it did pull up the client name and client address from the document, and it shows you the confidence score of the extraction, that it was 99.6387 and so forth. Okay, and it's showing when it was last modified and all those things. Now what we are going to do is we are going to apply this model to the same library. Okay, so I'm going to click on apply model, contracts management, service agreements, and click on add. And now we have added it over here. Click on sync all just to make sure. And if you want to go into the library settings, it will display the content types which has been added over here. So you have the service provider and the work orders. So you know which models are being used over here. So now what I'm going to do is let's go and add a new document which is just a work order. And let's select work order 1. Let's go ahead and select work order 2. Click on open. And as you can see, it's now processing that document. It's showing we are analyzing your file. One or more of the columns will be updated once the values are discovered. So while it's doing that, I wanted to show you one more process where, okay, this is all cool that, okay, these documents are processed, but you can add a Power Automate workflow as well. So how about if we want to, once the document is uploaded, we want someone's approval on that document. So you can go to Power Automate and click on new flow and say automated cloud flow. And I'm going to say approves agreements. Okay, and the first thing, when should this particular approval start? So it should start when the documents are classified. So I'm going to search for all the triggers, all the flow triggers with SharePoint. And if you see over here, there is when a file is classified by a content, if you see content understanding model, classifies a file shown in the classification date property of the file, blah, blah, blah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that as my trigger for this particular flow. So I click on create, and of course I have to specify the address, and I've selected the contracts management site. I'm going to specify service agreements, and just on the root folder, whatever comes up, that's what we need to go with. And the next step, what I'm going to do is I want to go with approval process. So I'm going to click on create an approval and specify everyone must respond, must approve. And over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify the file name and the extension. So if I can find that, so file name with extension is waiting for your approval. Okay, just some data. So when the email is sent, it will say that stuff. And I'm just going to send it to myself. So when I type in, it is going to pull up my email address. And in the details, what I'm going to say is created by display name has uploaded, and say the file name over here. Let's see, file name, and is waiting for your approval. And in the item link, I can specify the link field over there. So if you go down, it should say a link to item, and in the description I'm going to specify, say, the file name and extension over there. Okay, and I'm going to click on save, and now my approval process is done. Of course, you can always write more steps, like if the approver rejects it, then delete that file or send an email to someone else, but we are not going to get into that much details. So let's go back, and that's fine. And over here, let's see what the document has. So if you see over here, it has figured out that, oh, this is content type is work orders, and it found out the hourly rate of 100 over there. Okay, and then it also found out the client name was John Doe Client 2. So let's do this. Of course, this one was done after the classification, so this work order might still not be working. So I'm going to go ahead and upload one more document over here, and it's going to be the service agreement 2, and I'm going to click on open, and it's uploading that document. And I'm going to pause the video for some time. So once this document is processed, we'll look at the workflow and the approval which I get on Microsoft Teams and so forth. Okay, so after a few minutes, this document has been processed. If you see over here, it's showing the client name. If you go to, as I said, it creates new views. So if you go to service provider view, it will show you the client address and so forth. So once this document has been uploaded and it has been processed, if you go to manage workflows and refresh this, it will show you that the workflow also has succeeded. If you want to see this particular email which I got, it says that, okay, requested by Amit Furness, date created, and so forth, whether you would like to approve it. That's how it will show up on the email, but also it will show up on your feed on Microsoft Teams that, okay, this document was uploaded. It will also give you a link to that particular document, and once you have reviewed it, you can click on approve, and then this particular process will be completed. It says the final status has been approved. If you don't, after some time, if you open that email again, it's going to say you have already completed this request, so you cannot click on that approval process again. Okay, so what we have done is we have shown you how to use the content center. You have created different models, how to train those models, and basically once you upload this document, how it processes that document. You can also go ahead and in the same view over here, go ahead and click on show hide columns and select hourly rate, which was part of the work order. So if you select that one, it will show up the hourly rate over here as well. So I hope this document has given you a quick introduction to SharePoint Syntex. As we come across new problems and we find solutions, we'll be posting those videos on YouTube for you to follow. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll keep on uploading new videos. Whenever we come across any problems and we find solutions, we'll create a video and upload it over there. Thank you very much for watching this video.